Thank you, everybody, for being with us today. We have with us author Curt Shannon. Full disclosure, Curt and I go way back, maybe 1967, I think, or thereabouts.
Back when dinosaurs roamed the earth, I think.
Back
Yeah.
when dinosaurs roamed the earth. Curt is the author of The Gift, a reimagining of the Crossroads legend. I think I got that right. As well as other works, which I hope we can get into today. We have a lot of ground to cover. We'll see how much we get to in the short time we have. Curt, I want to thank you for being with us today.
Well, thank you for having me, Mike. Great to see you, and glad to be here.
And maybe along the way we can reminisce a little bit about our school days. I'm going to ask you to tell us a little bit about things that I know about already, but just tell us a little bit about your background, where you grew up, where you went to school, what you did professionally before you retired.
I was actually born in Atlanta, but I was raised in Florida, which is why I don't have such a big accent. Um, and I came back to Atlanta for high school, Lakeside High School, go Vikings, which where I met Mike. Um, I went to college at what used to be called Florida Presbyterian College, and then changed his name to Eckerd College because Jack Eckerd gave the school $15 million, which was a lot of money back then. Uh,
It's
After
still a
getting
lot
out
of
of
money, really.
still a lot of money, a
Yeah.
lot of money to me. Uh,
Yeah.
did a lot of different jobs. I actually worked for Harper and Row Publishers for a while. I eventually ended up many years later finishing my career at CDC, where I was a health communicator. In a couple of offices there, I avoided the recent purge, so I retired right when the pandemic was starting, which was good timing. So that's a little bit about me, and so I've always liked to write, and I was, glad to have the time to do it. But I think everybody in the pandemic became writers or wanted to be writers. Yeah,
Yeah. Well, I like to tell people that everybody has a story in them, you
that's true.
know.
That's true.
It's just a matter of having the wherewithal and the interest in putting pen to paper, or I guess that's an outdated
Or yeah,
term now, but whatever.
fingers to typewriter,
Finger to
fingers
typewriter
to
or
keyboard.
whatever, and just telling your story. Can you tell us a little bit? Can you describe your writing in general? I know we're going to get into your work a little bit, but just tell us about your writing and when you first knew that you wanted to be a writer.
I was 12 years old when I was pretty sure I wanted to, or I knew that somehow my work or what would drive me would be writing. I actually wrote stories even earlier on. This is kind of funny, and as you as an author will appreciate this. Um, I wrote in fifth grade. I wrote this thing about cowboys and Indians, which is very popular there in the 50s. And I had the cavalry. I had put all my friends as cavalry officers, and all my friends were all excited about it until some of them died. And said, "Well, why did you kill me? Why did you kill me?" I said, "Well, someone's got to die. It's a story. You can't just let everybody live. You got to have some stakes." I didn't say it like that, but uh, even then, I knew you had to write something with passion and emotion, and you had to maybe start dealing with some things that you didn't want to. But I put off writing for a long time. In high school, as you know, I was in a literary magazine, and for a while, I kind of gave it up, and I moved. When I eventually got to CDC, I ended up doing a lot more writing. So um, after a while, I realized I had, like you say, stories to tell. Um, I first started writing plays, and that was a very challenging thing because in plays, you can't write what people are thinking. You only can write their words and write their actions. And so you have to express everything again, through words or action. Um, and that's a very good discipline, by the way. I think that's very good for writers. Sometimes I think it's a good idea to if you're especially if you're getting a block on something, is write it that way, or write your story that way and see how it comes. I moved to screenwriting after a while because I was told by everyone who plays is you can't put that on stage. And I said, why not? He said, well, we can't afford it. So I started writing screenplays, and then I was told, well, we can't do that in movies. It costs too much. And so I said, well, I'll just write a novel. So I started writing a novel. The Gift, which I'm talking about, we'll talk about a little bit here, is a little bit different. That's kind of a longer short story that came about a little bit later on. But I've now moved to novels. I've got a three-part or a three-novel book that I'm getting ready to send out to agents with hopefully work out, or I will self-publish if that doesn't work. So kind of progress through everything, but all of it's been very helpful and I think has made me a better writer by trying all these different disciplines and different ways to express yourself.
Sure. You know, I actually attended the presentation of one of your plays.
That's right, you did. Yeah.
Yeah, a
High
few
Noon at
years
Shady
ago.
Acres.
Yeah, it was quite good. It was quite
Thank
engaging.
you. Thank you.
Um, so were there people who sort of shaped your voice when you were starting out? Are there people that influenced you or people whose works influenced you?
Yes, and that's kind of unfortunate, I think, because it kind of held me back for a while. It hurt. I was trying to write like them. D.H. Lawrence was a big influence in high school early on. Also read a lot of Aldous Huxley. Happened to run across his books, and Kurt Vonnegut, whose ideas were very stimulating. They all write very differently, but I it was sometimes hard for me to find my own voice. And even now, I hesitate to read someone will say, "Oh, you sound like so and so." And I go, well, I don't know if I want to read them because I don't want to, take
Yeah.
on too much of that. So um, it's a two-edged sword. You're only going to learn to be a better writer by reading good writers in any discipline you're talking about, I believe. But at the same time, you have to pay attention to yourself and what you want to try to do. So
Yeah,
it's a balancing act.
you want to appreciate them, you want to learn from them, but you don't want to emulate them.
Yeah, pretty much so.
Yeah, and that's a mistake I think that a lot of writers starting out, that's a mistake that a lot of writers make early on, I think, is trying to emulate somebody else whom they like and admire, and
Mhm.
that doesn't work. So let's dive right into the gift. Tell us about the gift. What sparked the idea? What is it about? I've read it. I absolutely loved it. I highly
Thank you.
recommend it.
Thank you.
Yeah,
It's short too, guys. It's
it is
short. It's
short.
it's only 72 pages, about less than 9,000 words. It actually started. My father lived in Pensacola, and I was driving down from Atlanta to Pensacola through Alabama, and I want to say it's Greenville has a Hank Williams Museum, and it was a sign for it in the road, and somehow the thought just popped in my brain, what if Hank Williams ever met Robert Johnson? And if you don't know who either of those are, you should, well, I have a little bio in my book, but you should definitely check them out. Lots of stuff. Hank Williams was kind of the king of country music. Robert Johnson is credited with being one of the real founders of blues. The blues tradition influenced people like Keith Richards. Um, you know, all of those people would just, gravitate toward Robert Johnson. So I wondered if they ever would meet, and I started doing a little research, and this was back 30 years ago. This story goes back a long time. And I began to see, well, it was possible. There was never any record of their meeting. This is totally a work of fiction. And so but I thought, well, what if there was a chance to meet? So I did enough biographical work on them to think there's a possibility that it could have happened. And also, if you know anything about the Crossroads legend, which is actually often associated with Robert Johnson, if you know what the Crossroads legend is, it's about a musician selling his soul to the devil on the crossroads to become a musician. And he sells his soul, and of course, will pay the consequences. And that story is often attributed to Robert Johnson. Again, not true, but it is a story. So I thought, well, maybe I could work something out, what combining those ideas. And what took me so long to really write it was I didn't just want to write their meeting as if I myself am there and I'm just describing it, because that would become kind of like fan fiction, which so I ended up uh, finding a new character to tell the story through, and his name is Lucas, and it's really Lucas's story, and the meeting of Hank Williams and Robert Johnson is really just a part of the story. It's an important part of the story. It's probably the pivotal part of the story, but it is just part of the story. So having gotten over that hurdle about 10 years later down the road there, I began really crafting it together. And it just took a long time. Um, One thing we may want to talk about is different writing modes. And when you're writing for work or writing more, I don't know, less creative things, often it's hard to get your brain back into the creative gear.
Mhm.
It took, and I finally, I think, got it together in a good point. And I thought, well, I'm working on my novels too, but why not put this thing out, get it out there, get some reaction, and at least I have something to show on my resume, if you will, my writing resume that people can look at. So I'm happy with the story. I'm happy with it, and I think it's about the right length. So
That's good. It occurred to me that the Crossroads story is perhaps one of the most enduring themes in our lifetimes. I mean, you think about everything from Charlie Daniels to Oh Brother, Where Art Thou to
mhm.
um,
Which actually had a
Sinners.
crossroads scene in that too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
to Sinners. You
Hmm.
know, this
Hmm.
most recent movie that
Hmm.
or
Yeah,
the
we
recent
talked about that.
movie.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's really interesting. It really is an enduring theme, but you have taken that theme and done something unique with it. Yeah,
Well,
which is
I
really
hope
good.
so. Thank you.
Yeah.
Only 30 years to write it. So,
Yeah. So what surprised you most? I know you've published it, it's available on Amazon and elsewhere. Um, what surprised you most about publishing it, about the process of publishing it? Did everything work as you expected, or did you learn from that?
oh, learned a lot from that. We can get into a whole thing about self-publishing. And I did the cover. I had the cover prepared for me by a good friend who's a really good artist. Um, I had sent this thing through so many iterations in critique groups and beta readers. And again, after 30 years, I think I edited most of it pretty well. I don't think I had, I still find errors, of course, you always will, but I did not hire an editor. But I did my own layout. That was difficult because Amazon, you have to have a certain number of pages for Amazon to even publish it as a book. Now you can do it as um, a Kindle reader, I guess, about any length you want to. I'm not sure about that, but to do and I do have it in a Kindle version as well. But if you want to do a paperback, it has to, I think, it'd be around 72 to 80 pages, somewhere in there. And I had to like increase the font and do a lot of little manipulations to get it right, which was a learning process. The cover had to work several times to get the cover within their parameters, which is also another interesting thing. So uh, it's a learning process, but I'm glad I did it, and I may do that with my novels too after a while because I'm not sure. Again, I don't know if anyone who's listening to this or looking at this have tried to get stuff sent out and through an agent or publisher, but it's very difficult
It's a tough
these days.
slog. It's a tough
Yeah,
slog.
so
Yeah.
I would like to try that first, but I'm under no illusions. It may be something I just need to do. So yeah, but I take your time. If you don't want to do it, I might suggest to be take your time and do it right. Um, the nice thing about it is, which I find useful here now, because I went ahead and got ISBN number, BN number, whatever it is, and also copyrighted it, which costs a little bit of money, but it's worth it because I can then have that. That's all very legal. Um, but with this self-publishing thing, if you find little things that are wrong, like little typos, little stuff like that, it's easy to change and republish.
Yes.
And that's really important. There's I'll give you an example in the gift. There's a character who is left-handed, or I thought was left-handed. It turned out this character was not actually left-handed. So I had to change what I wrote to incorporate that truth about that character. I'm not going to say who it is because that's kind of part of don't want to be a spoiler here. But little things like that it's very helpful in self-publishing is that you can correct without having to go back through, gyrations of getting things
Yeah.
done. So it's yeah, so that's about all I'd have to say about that for now.
Yeah. And part of it is the advent of print on demand, right?
Yes. Yes,
And there, there's
it is,
some
by the
traditional publishers who will
way.
do that as well. Yes, exactly. And by the way, yeah, so we
It's like I
will,
said, very, very thin.
yes. And I want to make sure before we end today that we let everybody know how they can learn more about you and how they can buy the book. But we'll get there. So, what's the most memorable response you've gotten from the book or from any of your work for that matter? You know,
And it's something which has helped me. The book, it's hard to know because I only put it out, I guess, beginning of the summer.
mhm,
So I've not, I mean, I've gotten very good responses. I've gotten 5-star reviews. No one said anything horrible about it. So I feel that I've gotten good things there. I think what has helped me, especially in writing and in writing the novel, but in general also just in writing, is I with the novel I had like a first chapter, actually a prologue, the very first thing I wrote from it, and I gave it to a friend of mine who is very, very harsh in his criticism, shall we say, and we're the type of friends that he would have no trouble telling me everything that was wrong with it.
yeah,
That's and so, but I like that actually.
yeah,
I'd rather hear problems from people I respect and like, and I know I'm talking to individually than in an anonymous review somewhere
hmm
by or anonymous or by somebody I don't know online where I have no control whether it's out there or not. But this person, he said to me, Curt, I really liked this part of the story because I didn't see you in it. You meaning me, the author.
right,
That really resonated a lot with me because I think sometimes we as authors, it is our story to tell, but somehow we think that or we believe that we have to kind of manipulate things a lot to tell it. And and I really took that to heart because I feel that let the characters tell the story,
yeah,
let it unfold through what the readers see, and use the author still manipulating a little bit, but you're really behind the curtain a lot, trying to in doing that. And so the more you can take yourself out of a story, to me, the better. Now, there's certainly other types of writing and a memoir, for example, that won't work at all. There's if you're writing from an first person, that's also going to be difficult to do. But um, I felt that was really, I was very happy, and I had not intended to do that. This was not something I set out to do. After I talked to him, I definitely incorporated that. And anytime I was describing something, saying, well, is this really coming from the character's eyes, or is this coming from me being Curt Shannon, the author, saying?
yeah.
And it's a subtle thing, but once you can sort of figure it out and begin to see it, it's very it's very good, very helpful.
Yeah, I think that's very insightful. I mean, with my writing, I want my readers to immerse themselves in the characters and forget that there's a writer,
Exactly,
you know.
exactly. And
And you can
I
do
think
that
you do it very well
even
from
the
your
first
work.
person, you can do that
Yeah.
if the first
Hmm.
person, the character is speaking in first person, and the
Yeah.
reader can immerse themselves to the extent that they forget there's the hand out there manipulating the
The
story.
puppet master.
Yeah. I mean, that's the problem with omniscient writing, right? I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah. Hmm.
I mean, even though some of my favorite writers like Virginia Woolf were, that's the way she wrote. And a lot of writers in that period wrote, in the omniscient
Hmm.
voice. But the problem is you're always telling the reader things that the character doesn't know.
Yes.
And the minute that happens, the reader is outside of the character, you
And
know?
and that gets tricky sometimes. To follow up on that is if you have a book, and my novel, for example, has characters. I have several point of view characters. So
Mhm.
I'm telling a story from all these different angles. And I have to really stop myself sometimes going, oh, wait a minute, this character knows this character doesn't. How am I going to reconcile that in a way? And sometimes, again, the reader may know more than any of the characters. And
Sure.
I don't know how you resolve that in a multi-POV setting. But again, I think what you're saying is right. I mean, it's just always look at it from what is the character seeing, reacting to, how are they acting, um, and look at it from that and not from me as the author doing it. Yeah.
Sure, sure, yeah. So, okay, so moving on from the gift and the other things we've been talking about. So you alluded earlier to plays and screenplays, and you also alluded to the prose you're working on right now. Can you tell us a little more about any of those works?
Uh, well, I have about five or six what you call 10-minute plays, which are actually fairly popular. And if you ever want to start writing plays, that's a good place to start. You consider a 10-minute play almost like a short story in a more narrative format. Um, Usually you have to it does have to feel like a play, so it has a beginning, a middle, and an end. And usually, though, at a 10-minute play too should have some sort of twist, much like how a short story should have a twist, I
Mhm.
think. Even novels to some degree have it. But I have several of those. I have, again, the play that you saw of High Noon at Shady Acres, which is a full-length play. You actually saw a reading of it, and it was 2.5 hours long, which is way too long. And at first I thought, well, I'm going to go back and start cutting, and then I got sidetracked with other things. Because sometimes when I finish with something, I'm finished with it, and even though it's not finished, I'm finished with it. So,
Sure.
um, at the novels are it's this isn't I mentioned that piece that I shared with my friend. It's about a spy, a woman spy, who is in Miami Beach and is awaiting her next assignment after doing something pretty horrible in Miami Beach. And she's almost caught. And I really wrote it. If you know what NaNoWriMo is, back when it was around, I think it's gone now. I kind of just wrote it off the cuff. Just started writing it. It's this woman in a room looking up at a ceiling fan in some low down hotel at Miami Beach, and it occurred my thought with it was, well, how did she get there? What was her? I mean, what happened before and after those events? And that really helped me sort of start writing a novel because I was able to look back and say, okay, how can I bring other characters in where they meet her? And it that to me was I became a way of writing to a plot point. Going back and writing to a plot point, a little less know a little bit less about what happens now because it's later and I have to be writing that part. Maybe I need a new goal to reach for. But uh, that to me is that's part of my process is I'm what's called a pantser,
Mhm.
um, not a planner. And although now when I'm writing my fourth book, I know I need to plan more because I've got these other three that I've got to reconcile. So I think eventually you become more of a planner. All authors do as they move along. But this sort of finding something, a big event, and then what you can write to lead up to that, I think is sometimes a good way to write, especially a good way to stop writer's block in case you have that.
Sure.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, that's a really good point. Yeah, the whole plotter pantser thing, I'm definitely a pantser as well. But you're right. Sometimes you have to plot things out, especially if you're writing a series of books that have to coherently work with each other. So tell us a
absolutely.
bit about your writing style, your writing preferences. Is there a particular time of day, a particular place that you like to write? Are there things that you do to sort of get the ambiance right? Are you the kind of guy that can write at a Starbucks, or do you have to have quiet? What does your writing day look like?
Well, and I don't, you know, I am retired, but I also help take care of my grandkids. So I don't have a writing day as such. I kind of work it around with them. And I was smiling when you were saying that because I changed things up. I wish I had a writing style. I wish I could get up at like 6 in the morning and write for 2 hours and then go do other things and come back and write later in the afternoon and have that kind of self-discipline, but I often don't. Um, I find for me at least a change of venue, a change of place is helpful. I can write at the Starbucks. I can write, I can go later in the afternoon and have a beer and um, sometimes that's good too, because if you're thinking about, gee, what does this character look like? You can look around and see somebody and then describe them. Maybe change it later, but instead of having to make it all up, you kind of do that. Sometimes you can hear snippets of conversation, which are helpful. Uh, but sort of having some distractions around helps me focus a little better. Now, that obviously won't work for everybody. But for me, it tends to help. One thing I've heard about, I was with some friends recently, we were discussing this, and there's some book, and I can't remember the name of it. I wanted to check it out before we talked, but I didn't get a chance to ask the friend. Um, where you just like pick a time of day. For me, it'd probably be early in the morning, and just sit down at the computer. Don't open up social media. Don't open up YouTube. Don't open up mail. Don't read the news. Just sit there and let's say for 15 minutes, I'm either going to write or look at the screen
Hmm.
and just do it and
Yeah.
just make it a habit, make it just part of your morning or afternoon or evening routine. You could do it after work too. Um, but just try to and force yourself to do it. You may not write anything. You may not write anything for a while. But you also may find too that you can, but that's something I want to try because I think you have to find a way to discipline yourself, or else you just find yourself getting up. Oh, I'll do some laundry. Oh, I'll go make dinner. Oh, I'll go talk to a friend. Oh, I'll doom scroll. Whatever, whatever it is that your way to get out of writing. You know, you'll do it, but just force yourself. Set the timer, 15 minutes. And I don't know. I'm going to try that to see if that works
Yeah, I think
or helps a
creating
little
a
bit.
habit like that can be really beneficial. So, so you mentioned the person that read that first chapter,
Hmm.
and I know you are part of a critique group. Can you talk at all? This is something I talk to a lot of writers about the importance of being part of a writing community. Can you
Absolutely.
just address that a little bit and talk about how that has helped you just being part of that community?
Yes, I started with. Can I say the name of the group?
Sure.
Okay? Atlanta Writes. Um, we meet on Thursdays, every other Thursday, some once every in person sometimes and online sometimes. Um, I find it extremely beneficial because, like I said before, I'd rather be hearing criticisms or issues from people face to face in the more safe atmosphere of a writing group than something anonymously online where people just get their worst selves online.
Yeah.
Um, you also get a wide variety of people coming in who write a wide variety of things. The people who write romance novels and fantasy. I'm not writing that, but even memoirs and things like that. And so if you find you're able to engage them, that they are intrigued enough to turn the page, um, that's very important. And I think, you need to get that kind of feedback because I think you want to get that feedback before you talk to an agent or, again, send it out into the world
Sure.
without anyone having read it before.
Yeah, that's
It's
important.
just it's just very, very helpful. It's also helped me and because when I'll do critique and I'll find myself seeing things that people do that to me are issues, then I'll look and say, well, you should look in the mirror, buddy, because you make those same mistakes.
Yeah.
So it's you can reflect on your own process in that way too. So I'd highly recommend everybody to become part of a group somewhere. The Atlanta Writers Group, which is a big group. I don't know your audience. I don't know if they're in Atlanta or all over, but if you go to libraries, go online. Meetup is I think all over the country, and they often have writing groups, and then find the group that works for you. You want to find people who are respectful, uh, who are not, I'll say, overly critical, but will give you honest feedback. And sometimes, again, that's a balancing act.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but it's so important. Can I give a quick example of
Sure.
how that helped? Um, and I'm kind of telling on myself here. Um, I had a character who was going in disguise. This is for my novel, which is kind of a thriller. And he was dressed as an Indian person, and he was dark skinned, a little bit dark skinned, so he had looked the part or whatever. And I thought in my innocence that I could say he, kind of smelled like curry. I was thinking maybe he just put curry powder, and I did not mean that any kind of insensitive way. It literally was like a sensory type of thing I was putting in there, which I thought was okay. And man, the feedback I got for that was just like, that's racist, that da 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 da. It was, well, no, I didn't mean it like that, and I'll take it out because I didn't want it. Now, if that again, if people don't know me, they might really think I was that what I was being racist. So it's getting those kinds of that kind of feedback. I know with the gift, I touch on some racial issues in there, and uh, I made sure that I had several people of color read my book, just to make sure I wasn't inadvertently saying something wrong. Um, so it's I think it's very important to get that kind of feed. Beta readers, okay, they'll read your whole book sometimes, but a writing group is essential, I think, for
Yeah.
when you want to take the next step.
I mean, the whole thing about, I mean, I write historical fiction, and a lot of my historical fiction takes place in the South and takes place in like the late 1800s and the early 1900s. And the challenge is you cannot write during that period and be true to voice without
Hmm.
incorporating certain things into the
Certain
story.
words
Yeah,
which it kind of tore me up. I had to use a few myself, but it was historically correct to do it at
yes,
that time.
exactly.
And
Okay,
and
so
let's yeah.
I'm going to ask you a question that I'm sure you did not anticipate.
Oh boy. Okay.
But you mentioned romance. Can you ever envision yourself writing a romance novel? And
Well,
by your
uh,
reaction, I'm assuming no, but
well, I think it's important again to try everything,
yeah.
to try it in different ways. I've not read that's probably where I would have to read romance to see what it is. And I have several friends who are big in romance, and there's several different subgenres in there. There's, I think, there's cozy mysteries, but the most important one with romance is what's called closed door and open door.
Yeah.
Do you know what those are?
Oh, yeah.
Well, in
Yeah.
case your listeners don't, the open door is when you're going to get to the, you know, shall we say, the heart of the matter, or other parts of the body part of the matter. The door is open and the reader sees everything. The closed door is like you kind of leave it to the imagination and you kind of, figure out. I can't write the open door. I'd have to write closed door.
Well, I mean, I think closed door in some ways, I know we're getting far afield from what you write, but closed door can be more provocative and more alluring in a lot of ways.
Imaginative. Yeah,
Yes,
more use imaginative.
because your
I,
brain
I
is
I do
devoted.
have kind of the litmus test for that is, and a lot of writers will come in with some of these scenes. When you start talking about body parts, that's the line for me.
Yes,
We all kind of know how the plumbing works,
right.
but I don't know if we need to hear about it actually working right then. I mean,
Uh,
that's crossing a line for me.
okay.
So I mean, I do have some romance in my book. I have some romantic situations between a couple of characters, so in my novel. But it's, yeah, I don't know. I'd have a hard time with it, I think.
I
I'd be laughing at
understand.
myself the whole way.
So we're getting toward the end here. A couple other questions. One, what do you wish you had known back then when you first started out that you know now?
That that is an interesting question, and you did prepare me for that one, so I did a little bit of thought on that. It's starting as early as I did with writing and going through adolescence and all that business. Um, you you often will think or believe that, why am I having these thoughts? Why am why am I thinking this way? Or why is this character in my head thinking this way?
Mhm.
Is there something wrong with me? And I wish I had known that the characters are going to talk to you, and the characters, once you set them in motion, they kind of have a life of their own,
Yep.
and you need to follow it through, and heal yourself as best you can with it. Don't go too far afield, but be willing to let those characters live and breathe, and don't throw your own moral sense on them. You can usually craft the story in a way that if someone's doing something really horrible, they'll get their just desserts or get something that happens to them. But it's payback. But it's you got to let these characters live in your head, and
Yeah.
you got to let them come out
Yeah, I
as
agree
they mean to come
100%.
out.
I
So
agree.
that's what I wish I had learned or
Yeah,
knew.
you have to be careful though if you're at Starbucks and you start conversing with them.
Yeah.
You're talking to them and they're talking back to you, and you have to be really careful. Um, is there
Absolutely.
anything else you would like to share that we haven't covered?
I think you've covered a lot. I'm sure I could think of things later. I hope that your viewers will get something out of this, and just all I can say is just be true to yourself and just realize every author has their own process. They have their own ways of doing things. Like you say, they have their own stories to tell, and it's up to you to find the best way. And just take what you can from everybody. What we've talked about, yes, other people. Again, if you do go to writers groups, you're going to find about their processes to do things. Uh, Always willing to uh, take on new stuff, and there's no one right way to do
Yeah,
this.
yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
So Kurt, how can readers buy your book and how can they learn more about you?
Well, this is about as much as I talk about myself. So I don't have much. I don't, I'm getting, I'm preparing a website before I do there, and I'll put some other things on there, some things that I've not published anywhere else. So that's going to be under curtshannon.com, but it's not ready yet, so it's not out. But as far as the book goes, it's on Amazon. The Gift, a reimagining of the Crossroads legend. You'll see the cover looks like this. By the way, I do have to share that this picture. Can you see that? Okay.
Yes,
Uh, my granddaughter did that,
that's wonderful.
and I put that in there. So now she thinks it's her book.
Good. Well, in a sense, it is her book.
It is her book. That's right. So, but you can find it on Amazon. It's only $6.99. It's as low as I can price it because of Amazon's pricing stuff. So, um, that's good. I'd love for you to read it, and again, hopefully, you'll see my name on several of the books that come out here later on. Next year is my year to do something of those novels. So,
That's good. That's
yeah,
great.
yeah.
Kurt, I want to thank you so much. This has been a true pleasure.
Well, the
And
pleasure's mine too. Absolutely.
yeah, I appreciate your
Appreciate it.
time
Yeah,
and I look forward to reading your works to come.
that's right. And we didn't even get any of the high school stuff.
That's right.
All
All right. Take care.
right, you too. Bye bye.
Bye.